Sea Salt & Company. This is our fourth image we are going to edit using our newest collection, the Beauty Box. I'm going to first start off using our Hello Gorgeous custom foundation picker under the Flawless Face. This will show you how to pick out the own tones, and the reason why I chose to pick this instead of our regular Hello Gorgeous Airbrush Plus foundation was due to the fact that if you look at the image here, we have, with the lighting and the backdrop here, we have a little bit different skin tones. So I know that if I use our regular Airbrush Plus foundation, I would need to use a correlation of different colors, and I figured it'd be just best if I used our custom foundation picker so I can match the arms, because this color is way lighter than it is over here because we have shadowing, and then also her face. So we're going to go through this, and we're probably going to use it 3 times to really get in on the different coloring of the skin so we can match it and kind of even out the tone a little bit better. So all you got to do is find that action and press play. You will have a dialog box that pops up that will talk to you about what's going to happen next. We're going to have some dialogues pop up, and this is where we're going to pick our shades that we want. And I'll show you right now. We just press continue. And when this box right here pops up, you don't need to change anything. Just press OK. And then this is our color picker. And what we're going to do here is we're going to select an area on the face to closely match our subject's skin tone. I'm going to sample, you do not want to sample an area from the lightest part where the highlights are, because it's going to be way too light for the rest of the skin. And you also do not want to select down in the shading area because that's going to be way too dark. You want to kind of find a neutral area where not too much light and there's not too much shadow going on. I'm going to select from right over here on the right side of her face. And it gave us this shade here, so we're going to press OK. And then the last dialog box that pops up is going to tell you to make sure to paint on a black layer mask with a white brush. These should already be selected for you as we have this built into our actions. I'm going to zoom up on her face so I can make sure that I can really get on the details and get my brush here. And we are just going to start brushing over our subject's face here. And we can go back and erase over areas that we accidentally went over that was not our intentions. And this is just giving a really nice airbrushed finish to the face, and also retaining the skin texture. So I'm going to turn this layer off and on to make sure that I got it in the areas that I needed to. And I see that I went over it a little bit on this side, so I'm going to erase back. For erasing back, make sure you select black as your foreground color. I'm going to go ahead and just go around the whole perimeter of where her face is so it can blend in nicely. And then I'm also going to lower my brush size and go over the lips just in case I got any on those areas, and as well as her nostril area. Because if I do not erase back, it's going to look like it's all matte, and I am going to add a matte effect to this image, but not until we are completely finished. So let's zoom out. I'm going to turn this layer off and back on. And you can see how it just really helped her complexion, the coloring of the skin. It kind of lightened up the shadows a little bit, and just made everything blend really nicely. Now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and flatten my layer. And I'm going to run this action again. So we got the same dialog box that talks about this next pop-up box going to pop up. And again, just press OK. And then we're going to select a color again. I'm going to go over here with this arm over here. And again, I'm not going to pick the lightest shade where the light is really on there in the highlight area. And nor do I want to pick down here where it's really dark. You just want to kind of pick a neutral area, like right in there. So that way it will just neutralize everything and blend it out very nicely. So So I'm going to zoom back into our image, get my brush, make it a little bit bigger, and we're just going to paint on the areas of the skin. And then I'm going to change my foreground color to black so I can just go back around the edges, just in the event that I accidentally went over with my brush. I don't want to paint the milky water. So I'll zoom out here so you can see the before and after of getting this shade. So that's before, and you can see the before and you compare it to her face, you know, since we already edited that. You can see the difference. So this is more clean and airbrushed and just finished, and you look over here and even the tones, you know, are off compared to the face. So once we turn that on, it evens it out more and gives it more of that finished look as it does her face as well. If you find that the shade is maybe a little too light or maybe too dark, open up your group layer. If you're in full versions of Photoshop, if you're in Elements, it will just be already opened for you. Open that up there and you can select another deeper color if you'd like, and you'll see the color change on her arm. And I'm actually going to leave it right there because I wanted to tone it down a little bit. I could see that was like maybe a little too light. So there's the before and there's the after. Now you can see it matches better with her face there. So we're going to flatten this and we're going to run this action one more time to do this area over here, her other arm. We get that same dialog box to pop up as the other one. Just press continue. This one here, you just press OK. And we're going to choose a color over here as well. I do not want to select over here in the shaded, really dark areas, nor do I want to pick a highlighted area. I just want to pick a neutralized skin tone area. So I'm going to go right about here in the upper bicep area. And I'm going to press OK. Press continue, just tells us that we're going to paint with a white brush and the black layer mask. So make sure you have your brush and make it a little bit bigger. We're just going to paint over the skin. I'm going to change my foreground color to black so I can erase back if I got any of that coloring on the water. I'm also going to erase back here in the shaded areas just to give it a little bit more dimension back. And let me zoom out. And we will turn off our layer and turn it on. And you will see now the before, see how off the coloring was compared to her other arm. Once we turn this layer on, the texture of the skin, the coloring, the complexion now flows better with the rest of the skin areas. So I'm happy with that. So now we are going to flatten that. If your image is, if you're using the custom foundation picker, and you don't have a subject like this or immerse in water, different areas, or your lighting's all the same, pretty concurrent, you will probably only have to run this one time. Just a specific image, I did run it 3 times. And again, different lighting. So the next thing we're going to do is go down to our Sculpt and Define area. And I'm going to use the Contour Sculpt My Face in Deep. This is specifically formulated with the colorings for darker skin tones, and we are going to work on contouring just lightly. So I'm going to select that action and press play. Once that action is done playing, you will get a pop-up box that tells you what this action is for and what's inside the group layers, which I'm going to show you, and I have showed you in the other editing video prior to this one. The colors I'm going to work with in this one, we have 2 darker shades. It's really good for contouring. And then 2 other shades, the Cocoa Butter and Cocoa Glow, which can be used as the highlight. It's just your preference, the tone you like, if it really blends well with your subject skin. But to start with the contour, I'm going to use the Deep Mocha shade, and that is our top one here. You will not edit on this group layer white mask. You're going to go down to the layer and use the black mask. So whatever color you want to use, you have to click on that layer and able to paint on that layer. If you're in Photoshop Elements, these will not be grouped. They will just be a clipping mask onto a background duplicate layer for you. So what I'm going to do here is I have the black layer mask selected of the Deep Mocha. I have my white brush and my soft brush here. Make it just a little bit smaller. And all I'm going to do is go underneath the cheekbone area. Just slightly on this side. Due to the angle, we won't do too much here. I'm going to make my brush really small here so I can go down the bridge of her nose on the sides. I'm also going to put just a little bit right here. We're shading there and a little bit there. We will go back and erase back here in a minute. Then I'm going to go up here in the forehead area, right here in the curve, temple area, just a little bit over here. Now I'm going to make it black, my foreground color, reduce the size of my brush, and I'm going to go on these outer edges here where it went over. And now what I'm going to do is keep the foreground black, and I'm going to lower the opacity of my brush to 30%. Increase size of my brush. And I am going to start up here and just kind of erase back in some areas where I don't want all the coloring. I want some of it, but not too much. I'm going to do the same right here. And clean up this over here on this edge. I'm going to swap my colors. I want white as my foreground, so I'm going to make this just a little bit blended out into the cheekbone. Give it some more dimension. I'm going to flip it back to black, so I'm going to erase back right under it lightly just to help blend it a little bit more. And I'm going to zoom out of here, and we're going to lower the opacities of this layer. So it's at 30%. I'm going to go down to 20. Turn it off and back on. That's fine. I want to get back up here on the bridge of her nose and clean up that contouring. So make sure I have black as my color. Reduce the size of my brush. Zoom out here and turn this layer off and on and see if there's anything I need to clean up here. So let me turn it off and back on. And you can see where, you know, it added some of the contouring little dimensions into the facial features and really brought those back. So I am comfortable with that. The next thing I'm going to do is use the color Cocoa Butter. I'm going to use this as a highlight shade. Make sure your paintbrush is back at white so it'll paint on, and make sure your opacity of your paintbrush is back up to 100%. And we're just going to go, our highlight we just want to put on the areas that the sun would naturally hit, or if you're using studio lighting, as such as this image, you can see kind of where the lighting is hitting, which is where the sun would be hitting. So just right up here on her cheekbone area. On the middle of the forehead. My brush smaller and down the bridge of her nose. On her chin just a little bit. And on the top of her Cupid's bow. And then I am going to zoom out. We'll lower the opacity so it can blend out. We'll turn it off and back on so you can see where the highlight went. It even helped out the skin tone as well, blend in. So it is set at 30%. We're going to change it to 20%. I'm going to turn it off and back on. Let me zoom out, see I'm comfortable with that. And I am very comfortable with that, so I'm done with the highlight and contour. I'm going to flatten that. The next thing we are going to play is we are going to do the mascara. So we're going to go down under the Wink and Wow, which is under the Makeup Studio. We're going to select the Lights, Camera, Lashes, which is mascara. It's for the lashes. You'll get a pop-up box, and it will just tell you about painting on the black layer mask, which most of all these actions are that way. And what we're going to do is just go over her lashes with our white brush. And we'll turn it off and back on. You'll see that it automatically looks like we applied mascara and really gave dimension to the eyelashes. If we click on the layer here that says add more mascara and turn it on, it will make them even darker. And for this image, I'm going to leave them darker since we're going to do a smoky eye effect. So I'm going to flatten this layer as we're finished with that. You're now going to go to the brow bar, which is under the Wink and Wow as well. It's right above the lashes. Press play. You get a pop-up box that talks to you about this action, which I'm going to show you how to use here. What I always do first is do the brow tints and do the brow highlight very last. So what we're going to do is grab our paintbrush, and with the black layer mask selected, we're going to go ahead and paint over the eyebrows to give some definition here. No color is being applied at this time. We're just adding some definition and contrast to those to bring them a little bit darker. So now what we want to do is pick a shade for her eyebrows. I am already very formulated with the colors that I created, so I know for her I'm going to be using the medium brown tone. And when I first click it on, of course, it looks light and just like we just painted over the eyebrows. But I'm going to change this blending mode of this layer from normal to multiply. And you'll see it automatically just deepen and just went over the fibers of her eyebrows. And what I want to do as well is this layer is set at 40%. We're going to drop it down to 15. We'll try 15. And I will turn it off and on. And you'll see how it just lightly just add dimension to those brows, color back into them. I'm going to zoom up here because we're going to erase back a little bit where color is not to be. So I'm going to change my foreground color to black, and I just want to go underneath the brows and really define in there, make sure I didn't get that tint, brow tint, anywhere else other than the brows. So we're going to shape these up here. What I'm going to do before I do the highlight here is I'm going to duplicate my background layer. We are going to do a little bit of hand editing here. I did this in another image. Let me zoom up on this image. I want to clean up the brow area just a little bit. So I'm going to grab my patch tool, and all I'm going to do is circle where some of the areas are of the misplaced eyebrows here, and just remove them. It's kind of like a digital plucking in a way. And there's a little bit of color on here from the makeup that she was wearing, probably from the mascara of eyeliner. I'm going to fix that smudge right there and remove that before we apply our other color. So I'm going to turn off our layer there and see before and after. Just some small changes I wanted to do. The next thing we're going to apply is the brow bar brow highlight. Make sure you select the black layer mask, not the colored part, but the black layer mask to apply this effect. Make sure your foreground color is white, so we can paint it on, and make sure your opacity of your brush is at 100%. And where I start applying this is right underneath the brow. That's like a highlight, and this is going to contour. We will go in and blend this in just a minute. I apply underneath the brow and right out here at the very end, at the tail of the eyebrow. So over here we won't have to do as much because of the angle of her. So we're just going to do right in this area, just right up there on the edge. And I'm going to switch my foreground color to black, make my brush a little bit smaller so I can bring back that eyebrow where I painted over. And then what we're going to do is zoom out. Get your paintbrush. Leave your foreground as black because we're going to erase back and make my brush bigger. I drop my opacity to 40%. We're going to start blending our brow highlight in. Just erase back on it. You're not taking it all the way off. You're just getting it more blended in there, and we can also lower the opacity of our layer as well. This helps just give a really nice defined eyebrow and helps define them and kind of, and also if you have extra little hair fibers and stuff, this is like a really good way to cover up some extra maybe eyebrow hairs that you couldn't or was unable to remove. So let me zoom out here so you can see the overall image so I know how much to lower the opacity. So this layer set at 60%. I'm going to go down to 40. I'm going to turn this layer on or off and back on, and I'm going to go right down to 30%. It's almost there. So off and back on. You can see how it just, if you see, just watch this eyebrow over here since we can see the fuller eyebrow. If we turn it off, you can just see it there. If we turn it on, it just automatically gave that nice fine line here without looking like a bunch of paint was thrown on her. So since we were finished with that, I'm going to go ahead and flatten all those. And then we are going to go in and apply some eyeliner. And we are going to go under our wink and wow eyes. We're going to use our velvet eyeliner. We're going to press play. So once that action's done playing, it's just going to give you a pop-up box about painting on the layer mask, the black layer mask. And once we do that, the first color, if you open up the group layer, it's Legend Black, which is actually the color we're going to use. But you can automatically just go ahead on that black layer mask, paint it on, even if that's the color you don't want, and then go back and change the color. Just click on and off layers because it will already be applied where you want it. So I'm going to zoom in on her eyes here, grab my brush. And what I'm going to do here is set my brush at 70, depending on your subject, it'll be your size, have to depend on your image. And I'm going to start at the inner of the eye. I'm going to go out here. And I'm doing this a little bit thicker because we are doing more of a smoky eye look. And I am just going over the eye area. We're going to create a smoky effect. And you can do this however you wish to do, just for this image. This is how I'm doing it. I'm going to make my foreground color black because I'm going to go back under here because I need to bring back those lashes. And go back to white, lower my brush size so I can get back on that line without overdoing it. That's I'm just going to do right over the lid area. I don't want to use this color way over anything like that, so we're going to come back in using our smoked palette from the collection and blend that out. Okay, so let me go over here to the other eye. Do the same thing over here. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to leave this on up here. I'm not going to flatten it, I'm just going to turn it off. And then I am going to go down to our shadow palettes and click on the smoked palette and press play. We're going to get a pop-up box here about using the black layer mask. We are going to use the shade Asphalt, which is the first layer up here, so we're going to select the black layer mask. I'm going to go ahead and turn back on our velvet eyeliner just so I can have a see where I have it at, see if I need to paint more on that one or what I need to do here. So make sure your brush is at 100, no changes, and you've got our black layer mask of the color you want to paint with. And I make my brush a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to start going at the edge of our eyeliner and working our way up. Because it is a lighter smoky shade than our eyeliner, so we can blend the eye. And might be a little bit back and forth, erasing and making sure you can get it where you want it. And I'm going to click back up on our velvet eyeliner here, because since I'm working with this eye right here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the opacity of my brush to 40%, because you can see this line right here from our eyeliner. I want to just blend it out a little bit so it's not so a strong line. I just want to dial back a little bit from there. And click back on our eyeliner or eyeshadow color, the Asphalt. Clean up the edge over here. And I'm going to go over here to our other eye using our Asphalt color and make sure I put my brush back up to 100%. Just going to fan it back and forth to blend it out to just the eye. I don't want to go up into the eyebrow area. So I'm going to go up to our velvet eyeliner, because we're going to erase back just like we did on this one to blend in. Get your black foreground color, drop your opacity of your brush, and we're just going to fan it back and forth just like we put on the eyeshadow to help it just blends nicely, but it stays darker down here towards the lashes and looks really nice. So let me get back over to Asphalt. I see some color here on the side that doesn't need to be there. I'm just going to erase that back. And let me zoom out of here. And for our Asphalt layer, it's at 100%. I'm going to drop it down to 90. So we get more of an opaque here and a more of a smoky, just kind of lightly buffed and blended color. And that is all I'm going to do. I'll turn these off and on for you so you can see just easily applied. So I'm going to flatten all of these. The next thing we are going to apply is under the blush palettes, the Luminous Color Cheek Palette. We're going to apply just a little bit of color. What the Luminous palette does is it gives us color, but also a dash of a highlight, a luminous shine to it. So under that palette, we're going to open up the group, and we are going to select the color Moodstone, which is kind of a palish gold tone. Make sure you have the black layer mask selected, you have a white foreground color, and you have your brush. Depending on where you want to apply it, we're going to apply it just right here on the upper cheekbone. Get my brush a little bit bigger here. Just right in there, and we will blend this out. I'm going to change my foreground color. Make my brush a little bit bigger. Just going to fan. Just going to blend this in just a little bit more. And I'm also going to, this whole group layer here, I'm going to drop the opacity to 20%. I just want a small burst of color, not too much. So there's the before and just the after. Just a little bit of shine here on the outer edges. I'm going to flatten that. And then I'm going to go back up to our Blushing Love Cheek palette. We're going to apply just a dash of color on her cheekbones, just like right below, like right where the apples of her cheeks are. And make sure your black layer mask is selected and your white foreground color. And we're just going to apply some color where we want the color. We will blend it. Erase back any areas we don't want the color. And we're going to select the color. Your Love is King. It's your top shade here. We're going to drop that opacity to 20%. Trick is a dash of color, but not too much. So I still have my black layer mask, or black foreground color, and I'm going to go back a little bit up here. Make sure I have that color exactly where I want it. Zoom out and see if I need to erase back anywhere, which I am going to erase back. I'm going to drop my brush opacity down to 40%. The brush bigger and just lightly under here. I just want a dash of color on the cheekbones. And I am finished with the blush color, and I am not going to add any of our lip tints to her lips just because I like and keep it simple since her eyes are so dramatic. I don't want to take away from that. The focus is, you know, the milky water and then the eye, and I think everything else looks great there, so I don't want to change that. What I am going to go do is go back up here to our base designer. I'm going to press play. I'm going to press continue. We're going to open up this group layer. And the changes I'm going to make in here is I am going to make it matte. So I'm going to go up here and select the layer, Base Designer, make it matte. I'm going to turn it on. And I'm also going to take the opacity down to, let's see, 70 actually. Let's try 60%. Try that. And then I want to add a little bit of Fill Flash to brighten it up in here, but I'm going to change that opacity down to 20%. I'm going to turn these layers off and back on. And what the matte did is it really kind of helped, you know, blend in the skin tone a little bit more, kind of emphasize the smoky eye, and just made it look, just gave it a nice matte look. So I'm now finished editing this image. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy our new collection. Thank you for watching.